Hey, what's up, guys? Today, I'll show you a science fiction horror film, Underwater. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins at Kepler, a drilling facility operated at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. This is where we find Nora, a mechanical engineer, brushing her teeth and contemplating her life. The lights in the bathroom start flickering, and she hears strange noises. While walking down the hallway, something drips from above her, followed by an explosion that sends her running. She screams for everyone to wake up as there's been a pressure breach, and everybody needs to evacuate to the bulkhead. On her way, she comes across her colleague Rodrigo, who follows after her. They work on sealing the bulkhead to make sure that the rest of the rig won't implode. A couple of guys scream for them to wait, running to catch up before they seal it. Realizing that the guys won't make it, Rodrigo tells Nora to close the door, otherwise everyone will die. Closing her eyes, Nora pushes on the button just in time. After regaining their consciousness, Rodrigo asks if it was an earthquake. Nora admits she doesn't know. They're unable to radio anyone, as the system announces that the station is 70% compromised and the reactor is unstable. They have to act quickly, so Nora informs Rodrigo that they need to get to the pod bays. They head for the directory, where Nora works on finding the nearest functioning pod bays. She's shaking, trying to keep her focus. Rodrigo watches and notices her shaking. He reassures her that she did the right thing by closing the door to save the entire rig. Without her, everyone would have died. The station continues to shift, and he asks if she really thinks it's an earthquake. This time, Nora shakes her head. She then announces that they have to go to CR7 for the evacuation pods. On their way to CR7, Nora hears someone calling for help. She turns around to look for the survivor and finds Paul buried under some debris. He's still breathing and in one piece. As Rodrigo and her work on helping him out, he hands over Lil Paul, a stuffed rabbit. They continue on to CR7. As they're crawling through the wreckage, they come across the body of their colleague. Nora stops for a moment, taken aback. She moves the body to the side and continues crawling. They finally reach the pod bay, where Nora finds their captain just sitting in the middle of the room. She swears when she realizes that all the evacuation pods are gone, which means that their captain willingly stayed behind. When he finally takes notice of the three, Captain walks up to them. He informs Nora that the door's jammed, while he orders Paul and Rodrigo to check where they are on the submersible. After getting the door open, she updates him about the situation of the rig, admitting that things are really bad. He asks Nora to sit so that he can look at her injuries. She demands why he stayed behind, and argues that he should have gone up. He tells her that staying behind is what captains do, but she tells him that nobody cares, especially when he has a kid. He tells her to stop and reassures her that everybody's getting out alive. After checking on Nora, Captain sends her to the control room. There she comes across Emily, their biologist, and Smith, another fellow engineer and a good friend of Nora. Emily begs for reassurance from Nora that the company's sending someone their way. Captain answers for her, telling Emily that he's pretty sure someone has already been sent, but the problem is they most likely don't have the time to wait around. Nora reports that they've lost the cooling towers, which means that the core of the Keplers is completely unstable. They have about 30 minutes until meltdown, which would blow them into tiny pieces back to the surface. Captain proposes they head for Roebuck, which is another station a mile from where they are. There they can use the station's evacuation pods instead. They ask him how they'll get there, and he suggests they walk. Everyone overreacts, since this will mean walking a mile across the ocean floor in pressurized suits. Captain gives them the step-by-step of what they're going to do. They'll drop down to the seafloor using the cargo elevator, use the access tunnel to get to the midpoint station, where they can charge and clean their rebreathers before they follow the markers to cross the plateau to Roebuck. Paul points out the flaw in Captain's plan, which is essentially walking through pitch-black darkness, without knowing where they're going with insufficient oxygen. Captain agrees with Nora that they might die if they follow his plan, but he challenges her to admit that they may live doing it as well. With no other options, the group follows his plan. They head below deck to suit up. Quietly freaking out, Emily asks if anyone's been out there longer than fixing a pipe, and Nora acknowledges it's never been done before. Captain advises everyone to find 6 good helmets. Rodrigo locates one with a hairline crack. He calls Nora and hands over a helmet. She walks over to Captain to help him out with his suit, especially since his left arm's on a cast. As soon as everyone's ready, they head over to the deck. Before their descent, Smith stares at their equipment table. Paul approaches him to ask what he's thinking. He confesses that he didn't like the sound they heard from the transmission and reaches for one of the wireless power drills. Paul thinks it's a valid point and takes one for himself as well. During their descent, Nora and Rodrigo notice the crack on his helmet growing. It turns out he had taken the defective helmet for himself and handed Nora a good one instead. When they reach the level they're supposed to get off, Nora tells the group to keep the door closed, but it's too late. With the defective helmet, Rodrigo implodes. Emily screams in fright while Nora walks away from the elevator to take a breath, realizing what Rodrigo did for her. On the cargo elevator, Nora tells Captain that she knows Rodrigo knew the helmet he had was faulty. He comforts her verbally without using his muscles, admitting that he knows it feels unfair, but she has to take it and use it. Nora agrees, and they continue on. As they continue with their descent now on the cargo elevator, Emily opens up that she has never seen anyone die before. Paul tells her that he has, but then concedes that he didn't see anyone implode before. He then laughs and shares with the group Rodrigo's favorite joke. What did the fish say when it bumped into the brick wall? Damn. This earns a tiny snort from Emily. Smith notices a distress signal from one of the evacuation pods. Captain tells them that it could be a survivor and informs the guys that somebody has to suit up. Smith and Paul go together. When they're outside, Paul reports that the platform is unstable and informs Captain that he's not sure how long they should be out there. When they finally find the evacuation pod, Paul theorizes that it imploded. It's covered in some weird algae or seaweed that the group's not familiar with. Upon further inspection, Paul spots a body entangled in the coils. Nora speaks up that the two should come back, but they push forward. Paul notices something on the body's back that seems to be moving. Captain calls for the guys to come back, but Paul's too fascinated with whatever's on the back of the body. Out of nowhere, the alien-like creature jumps toward Paul. Fortunately, Smith has his wireless power drill and shoots it down. Back at the cargo elevator, Emily inspects the alien-like creature and speculates that it's probably a new species coming out of a hydrothermal pocket that they may have drilled. The system then goes offline, and they lose control of everything. As Nora's working on disengaging the elevator, the group hears a loud, monstrous groan. Everybody stops for a minute to listen. Turning to the creature that's on the table, Paul asks if it's possible that it's a baby, and whatever's outside is its guardian. As something moves about outside the elevator, Paul closes the door to the depressurizing chamber. While the group's looking at the ceiling window, an alien-like creature attacks it. Everybody screams. While trying to figure out what it was, they see an explosion. The Kepler's core has finally exploded, which immediately cuts the line that's connecting the elevator. Captain rushes everyone to the pressure chamber, instructing them that they have to open the outside hatch before they hit the seafloor, or they'll get crushed. The group struggles, but successfully escapes the cargo elevator, with Captain screaming for them to run to safety. With debris falling everywhere, Smith gets hit by a huge piece of junk from the station. They help him up, and Captain urges everyone to head for the pipeline entrance. They make it safely without further incident. In the midpoint station access tunnel, Nora identifies the problem with Smith's pressurized suit. His oxygen scrubber took a hit, and he inhaled some fumes, but it should be fine. Paul loses it a little as he tries to get the conversation back to the alien-like creature they saw before the explosion. Captain asked Paul to stop and orders Nora to call the mover. They get on it, which should take them to the midpoint station itself. Before they can go further, Captain tells Paul to stop the mover when he realizes that they're about to go into deep water that the mover won't be able to handle. Nora thinks that the pumps are jammed, which is why the water's stagnant. They hear something chittering outside, and Paul repeats that something's following them. The group pushes forward. They come across an obstruction a couple of feet away. Captain suggests they find another way, but Nora offers to check it out since she's the smallest. After a couple of minutes, Nora swims through the other side without any problem and finds that they can continue on. She encourages the others to follow, assuring them it'll be tight, but they can definitely do it. One by one, they swim to the other side, with Paul going last. However, without their knowledge, something's already inside the tunnel with them. When Paul turns, he catches a glimpse of something diving into the water. Without waiting for the signal from the group, Paul immediately follows after Smith. The group successfully pulls Paul towards them, but there's something wrong with his line as he tugs on it. Nora tells Smith to unclip him, but before they can do anything, something pulls Paul back. While panicking, Paul hands over Lil Paul and begs for them to give him his helmet, since whatever's on the other side is trying to pull him back underwater. After a brief tug and pull, the creature breaks off Paul's left leg and rips him out of his pressurized suit. Emily screams as the rest of the group runs to get out of the water. At the midpoint station, Captain attempts to reach those on the surface, informing them where they are. They need help soon since the Roebuck's heavily damaged as well, and they have no idea how long it'll last. Smith wonders out loud how the drill was ripped apart when it weighed 6,000 tons. Emily whispers that they take it too much by drilling at the bottom of the ocean, and the ocean is taking things back. She ends her reverie by stating that they shouldn't be down there. Captain tries to regroup the team, reminding them that they can't stay. Emily mentions Smith's pressurized suit, which Captain offers to check out. Smith states that the suit is not gonna make it. He tries to convince Nora to leave him, or else he'll be dead weight. But she refuses. They then head for Roebuck. On their way, Nora stops when she notices something in the darkness. Captain asks her what she saw, but she doesn't know what to say. Another minute passes, and Nora accidentally flashes the alien-like creature with her flashlight, which makes it groan like a girl and swim past them. This time everybody sees it. Captain instructs Emily to set Smith down as they try to get a bearing on what the alien-like creature is and how to fight it. They hear another noise. This time Captain tells them to turn their lights off while he switches to infrared. He sees something standing behind Nora. When she turns towards it, it swims away. This is when they notice that Smith's gone, which sends them into another panic. Emily screams when they finally see the alien-like creature dragging Smith into a cave. Captain volunteers to go after them. He finds and takes Smith back to the girls. He tells them he needs to go back to get the wireless power drill. The alien-like creature grabs Captain as he reaches the tool and takes him with it, dragging Nora as well, since Captain is clipped to her. A struggle ensues. Captain fights off the alien-like creature with a knife. In anger, it grabs onto him to drag him down a shaft. Nora holds on tight to Captain as they get pulled deeper. However, the pressure's rising too fast, which will kill them both. Captain tells her to let go, but she refuses, not wanting to lose any more muscular people. To rescue Nora, Captain cuts himself off instead. When Nora regains consciousness, she realizes she's close to Shepherd Drill, which is another expeditionary unit that they completely disregarded earlier since it's abandoned. Wanting to live for everybody who died trying to get out, she finds a flare gun in one of the containers, as well as another pressurized suit that she can use. She checks the map she finds to make sure she's going the right way towards Roebuck. She keeps her comms open, talking and hoping to reach Emily and Smith. Following the markers down the southeast line, she hears Emily's voice through the comms talking to Smith, admitting that she has hormone feelings for him. For some reason, Emily can't hear her, so Nora tackles her from behind. After their reunion, they help each other drag Smith towards safety. Before they can reach the Roebuck, they come across a nest of alien-like creatures, blocking their way to the station. They try to sneak by, but accidentally wake one of them when Emily's pressurized suit lets out a low oxygen warning. Nora encourages Emily to take Smith and go, but she's snatched up by one of the creatures. As it's trying to devour her whole, Nora fires off the flare gun and kills the creature before it can finish the job. However, the noise awakens the other creatures. As they prepare to attack her, their whole mess moves, which confuses Nora. She fires the last flare into the distance and towards the direction the nest went. This is when she notices that the alien-like creatures seem to be the spawn of what appears to be Cthulhu. Emily comes back for Nora and drags her inside the station. They hurry to get to the evacuation pods with the Roebuck's imminent meltdown as well, since Cthulhu starts attacking it. However, Nora discovers that only 2 out of the 3 pods are functioning. The girls convince Smith to take the first one, and Nora hands over Lil Paul to give to Paul's parents. With Smith safe, Emily offers to go last and let Nora take the second pod. She refuses, and that's when Emily notices the last pod is defective. She fights Nora, wanting to stay and help her fix it. Nora punches her and forces Emily to take the second pod and restore her harmony with Smith. Accepting her fate, Nora goes back to Roebuck's control room, where she realizes that the spawns are chasing after the 2 pods. Emily and Smith are still in danger. She decides to quicken Roebuck's meltdown and overload the nuclear core to make a massive explosion that'll definitely kill her, Cthulhu, its spawns, while ensuring the other 2's safety. The movie ends with a couple of news montages relaying that Emily and Smith are safe, and their interviews regarding the incident are deemed classified. The company that owns the drilling facilities refuses to cooperate with authorities. However, they plan to resume drilling as soon as possible. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.